This song is dedicated to all my fellow anarchists on Reddit. It's time we get out of our basements and show society what we're really made of. Let's fucking go, team. Let's get it. I'm an anarchist, and I'm fucking pissed. I'm an anarchist, and I'm fucking pissed. I hate the government, cause I'm on a list. I hate the government, cause I'm on a list. I deserve a fucking Porsche and a fucking horse. I'll take all your shit by way of force. Give me healthcare, even if I smoke. Give me welfare, cause I'm fucking broke. I'm a communist, if you couldn't tell. I'll eat the rich, bitch. You can't stop me now. I'll burn everything to the fucking ground. I'm an anarchist, we don't mess around. Oh, it sounds like the pizza rolls are done. I'll show you all my Funko Pop collection later. Peace. Hello internet, it's been a while since I did a song for a video, so I hope you guys aren't disappointed, but today we will be reviewing a subreddit that I don't think I've ever done on the channel before, and it was recommended to us by Sam Nayaga on the Patreon, so thank you, and let's get right to the posts. Alright, so the first subreddit that we chose is r/anarchism, and right here we can read, Anarchism, beneath the pavement, the beach. Anarchism is a social movement that seeks liberation from oppressive systems of control, including but not limited to the state, governmentalism, capitalism, racism, sexism, ableism, speciesism, and religion. Anarchists advocate a self-managed, classless, stateless society without borders, bosses, or rulers, where everyone takes collective responsibility for the health and prosperity of themselves and the environment. So apparently no ANCAPs here at all. They're only giving you one option, and it's communism. So what I find the funniest is that they advocate for these things, and I understand the principles behind them, but at the end of the day, I feel like human nature is going to inevitably create states, and within these smaller states, even though they wanted to span all of them, but within these smaller groups, eventually one group is going to want to leverage resources over another group. Like, this is some John Lennon utopian bullshit that just isn't going to work, because not everybody actually wants this, and a lot of people are actually really big pieces of shit that you don't want within your community. And I know they're going to argue that, well, you can just kick them out. Well, what do you have then? You basically have a state, right? Like, the community is now the state, and then there's going to be people who don't want to be a part of that group, but will eventually consent to be like living there still peacefully. And then look at that. You've inevitably just created a state again, and you didn't even try. And then people are going to want safety, so, you know, they might establish borders, or, you know, people will want to form communities and then be like, okay, well, this is the community that we're going to govern, and then this other community is the one that they're going to govern. Like, now we're just starting over again, and we're ending in the same spot. This is why I don't really take anarchism or communism that seriously at all, because I think it's just bound to fail. Like, they can be right about their morality, but they can also be dead. So, unfortunately for them at least, a system like this is not possible. But anyway, let's look at the top posts of all time. Emma Goldman, no one is lazy. What will you do with the lazy ones who would not work? No one is lazy. They grow hopeless from the misery of their present existence and give up. Under our order of things, every man would do the work he liked and would have as much as his neighbor, so could not be unhappy and discouraged. Yeah, first of all, most men are generally competitive, and they'll see what their neighbor has and actually want to work harder for more than what his neighbor has. And secondly, there are absolutely lazy people out there that, if given the chance, they will take every single shortcut to do the least amount of work possible. We all know that they exist, and more or less, they are parasites, which means basically you have to raise the minimum that they do to an actually contributing number. That's just how labor and service operates within the market. And I didn't even see this. ACAB? Really? Yes, really. And I clicked on it, and basically they're just comparing our modern day police officers to the Gestapo, which I think is just insane. Like, yeah, there are bad cops, and yeah, there are institutional issues, but at the same time, most cops aren't literal Gestapo members, and their jobs and goals are much different than the literal Nazi Gestapo. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Individually or as a group, police officers function as members of a class of people whose purpose is to enforce the will of the capitalist oligarchy and maintain a constant state of class warfare against the people to keep their rich masters in power. Now, I think this is really, really reductive because I don't think that, like, when someone signs up to be a cop, they're just thinking about enforcing this or I don't know, bowing down to some capitalist overlord. Like, this is probably the last thing that they're thinking. And at the end of the day, their primary service is to uphold the law. So really, you have a problem with the laws, because I don't think the police would really care either way. I mean, unless it's something extreme, of course. But I mean, even then we saw that, you know, even extreme laws can get passed in certain societies. But like, I think in America, we have a pretty rigid system, and I think that the laws are truly the problem at the end of the day, and that cops are people too, and they understand that, and they don't like the laws that the government enforces, especially with like so many cameras being everywhere and stuff, like infringing on people's you know, sovereignty and privacy or whatever. But my point is, it's such a unique role in society that I believe is entirely necessary. But this is just really kind of childish and reductive, and I think this is why nobody really hops on this board, because, you know, the cops are the first people that these people call when shit goes wrong. I promise you that. But anyway, we've talked about, I guess we haven't talked about this post much, but I just read the comments and they weren't too interesting, so let's move on. Oh wait, no, these controversial fucking comments are great. Gotta disagree with her here. I think most humans are lazy, and that isn't a bad thing. We innovate so that we don't have to work as much. I think the point is that hardly anyone is lazy in doing something they enjoy and where they feel wanted and appreciated. Yes, but laziness is also about work we don't enjoy. I am lazy when it comes to doing my household chores and plenty of other duties that aren't coerced against me. The reason we have advanced is because we are lazy on work that we don't want to do but still needs to be done. I don't see how that's a bad thing. -2 down votes. And this guy said, I disagree. Anarchist communism should require everyone to do their fair share of the unpleasant jobs if it comes down to it. How the fuck are you gonna force people to work? Because that doesn't sound like anarcho-communism at that point. Well, buddy. Literally, how else are you gonna incentivize people to do shitty jobs? Unless, I don't know, maybe there's a method of payment that they could receive in order and consent to in order to actually, like, be comfortable enough to do the job or accept to doing it. If only we had a way to actually, you know, reward people with a fair amount of money or some type of resource that they can get for doing the shitty job, and maybe it would be higher because there's less demand to do that job because it is shitty, therefore they would get paid more. I don't know. That sounds like a crazy system to me, but maybe it would work. Anyway, sorry, let's move on to the next post now. This right here is the problem. Even felons should have housing, -18 points. And I just made a post about it, actually. And I say, yes, they do. It's called prison. And holy fuck, this is the most retarded comment I've ever seen. Even if you thought people with felonies were dangerous, why would you want them in the streets? How is that any safer than just letting them live indoors? They will live indoors. Like I said, it is called prison. This might be the most retarded comment I have ever read. Like, I get it. They don't like the prison system or whatever, and they think it's probably some moral illegal thing, whatever. This might be the most retarded comment I've ever read on Reddit. This is such a Reddit logic comment. Like, I get that they don't like prisons because they think they're corrupt or whatever. Who the fuck knows? I know they just want a bunch of felonies running around in their borderless, stateless society. Yeah, that sounds like a great fucking idea. Good job. But this is how you know that it's just a bunch of 14-year-old liberals or people who still have the brain of a 14-year-old liberal that are making all these moral grandstands on the internet, right? Because right here we have abolish all prisons and all lords are bastards too. Now, here's what I will say. I definitely think that a lot of rich people commit very serious felonies and they don't get any type of punishment, and that shit needs to end. I think they should get as draconian of a punishment as, poor people who commit crimes as well. But I do think it's give and take in that once you commit a felony or something, and once you have actually been punished for it, that I think that your record should be basically clear and you should be treated like, or as if it is clear, because the whole purpose of a punishment is to serve your time from doing that bad thing, right? So I think we need to make the punishment for the crime a lot worse, but once it's over, then I think it should be over and that's it. That just feels a lot more fair to me, but I don't know, maybe you guys would disagree. America as a whole, America is stolen land built by people who were stolen from their land. Man, I knew this would come up. I was only waiting for it, but I knew we would definitely see a post like this. And one of the things that I can say actually is that I kind of wish that we did give at least most of the slaves, some property of their own that they actually had like legal titles to or grants, and because I think that would at least be fair, I feel like it's way too late now to do anything about it, but I feel like back then, I think that argument could have been made pretty justly, but at the same time, this land was conquered, it was not stolen, unless everybody's land was stolen at one point from someone else, pretty much. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Someone won, someone lost, get over it. Protect your shit better next time, that's what I'm gonna say. History is brutal, man, and the cards fell where they fell, and unfortunately, people are always harmed. It doesn't matter what period of time you go to, this always occurs, but anyway, it's not just an America thing is what I'm trying to say. A note on this, indigenous were enslaved and worked to their death in mines and fields by settlers at least a century prior to transatlantic slave trade. The slave trade only began after they depleted indigenous population to near extinction. Well, most of what killed the indigenous population was actually like disease and stuff that was kind of out of the settlers' control. Like, we didn't know that it was gonna fucking murder all of them. I think it was like smallpox, measles, But the way they're framing it is that we just like worked them to their death and we're like, all right, well, now time off to Africa, right, to get those slaves. But the colonizers needed new source of slaves. Yep, right here. That was when they began to kidnap West Africans and started the slave trade. And I'm glad this guy said something. I mean, that's part of the truth, but the economic motivations for the slave trade's expansion into North America is a lot more complicated than colonizers running out of native slaves or whatever. Yeah, the Portuguese began the slave trade in the mid-1400s in West Africa, and then the large-scale Atlantic slave trade that we all talk about today happened around the 1500s and onward. Like, slaves are already coming to the Americas before it was conquered by the more, most of the other European countries. This is basically just a Reddit tier version of history, and it got 220 upvotes. And for the last post, pro everyone architecture, and I guess the solution now to people being homeless is to create benches that act as beds also. What the fuck? There's a lot of people who choose to continue being homeless, and I don't want to incentivize that behavior anymore. I would rather just force them into getting rehabilitated and, using our tax dollars to at least make them or train them to be somewhat useful in something so that they can integrate back into society and maybe have a better chance at a life. But like doing shit like this just encourages more people to stay homeless, which I think is absolutely retarded. Oh my god, dude, you fools, you nincompoops, this is bad because they could be getting a house instead. Me, intellectual galaxy-brained, give them a house and give public benches the metal pillows. It's not one or the other. When will people realize that just giving people something isn't actually a solution because they have problems that are way deeper than them just not having stuff? Like, I think this occurs in California, but they give homeless people free clean needles, right, instead of actually providing them real help. And I know most people don't like this type of involuntary capture of people, but what do you think is better, forcing them to be rehabilitated or letting them just rot and die on the street? Like, give me one of those two and really tell me which one do you think is more like moral or more good and will lead to better outcomes for that person. If we're gonna play these stupid fucking games with our tax dollars, I would actually like to see them try to get them to somewhere other than to the next high, you know? But we've seen what it looks like when junkies with problems get housing. They fucking destroy it and make it terrible. Like I said, a lot of these people actually have families and, you know, resources to get out of their situation, but they choose to do drugs instead, which is why I'm saying that their mental faculties have been compromised to a degree that they can no longer make rational decisions on their own. Therefore, we need to, you know, actually force them into getting into a position where they're actually useful in society again. But I see a lot of people down here talking about public housing, and that is one of the things that Mom Donnie ran on. So we'll see if this actually comes to fruition. I would like to see exactly how this ends up. He said it was going to be like this paradise fucking clean area where, you know, people are gonna just live in a nice little happy peaceful community. Yeah, okay, we'll see how that goes, buddy. But anyway, thank you guys for watching the Patreon video. Thank you to all of my base gods, base legends, super based, and base certified members. And I am super tired. Sorry, it is 3 a.m. and I still gotta fucking edit this video, but I will see you guys later. Peace.